AI is making intelligence a lot cheaper, but that doesn't mean that the human brain is becoming less valuable. In fact, it might actually just be the most valuable asset in our economy. McKinsey and the World Economic Forum published this 33-page report on the interplay between brains and AI. The upside of stronger brains could be $6 trillion. And most people have no idea how big that number really is. So let me just give you some perspective on this. If I had a counting clicker and I hit it every second, it would take me about 12 days to reach a million. For a billion, it would take me about 31 years. So that's the difference between a million and a billion. Now a trillion, again, I have that clicker, it would take me almost 32,000 years. So 6 trillion in upside is more than most people can fathom. If a million were the size of a grain of sand, about a millimeter, then a trillion would be a kilometer. It would be 10 football fields, in this case 6 times 10, so 60 football fields to 1 grain of sand. Like, this is massive. So they published this 33-page report called Stronger Brains in the Age of AI. And I read the whole thing, noted it up. So at a high level, this report is a roadmap for stakeholders on how to increase brain capital. So first off, what is brain capital? Well, they divide it into 2 parts. Part 1 is brain health, and part 2 is brain skills. Now, brain health is pretty intuitive. It's the healthy neurological development. It's the absence of mental health problems, neurological problems. But brain skills is where it gets interesting. See, they define it as the foundational cognitive, interpersonal, self-leadership, and technological literacy abilities that enable people to adapt, relate, and contribute meaningfully. Now, if that sounds a bit vague to you, I agree. But hidden within this definition is one of the most important opportunities of our lifetime. And I'm going to explain why. So first, as they're going through this report, they start off with brain health. Now, they say a lot here, and I don't think any of it is particularly new, so I'm just going to cover a couple things. The first thing that made me raise my eyebrows was this figure, that brain health conditions, which include mental health issues, neurological issues, substance issues, they account for 24% of the total global disease burden. 24%. And remember, this is just for brain health. This is just the bread and butter stuff that we know of. We're not even talking about cognitive performance and mental optimization. And the other stat that I found interesting was this $6.2 trillion of value, where that number came from. According to McKinsey Health, improving the access to brain health interventions could reduce the global burden of disease by 260 million DALYs, which stands for Disability Adjusted Life Year. And that's just a unit that's used to take into account both the years of lives lost and the years of someone's life that are impacted by disability. And then it gets to my favorite topic, personally, which is brain skills. So check out this chart. Every year, the World Economic Forum surveys over 1,000 employers across 55 economies in like 22 industries. And they do that to understand how their needs are evolving. So they were asked what skills that they thought were important today and what skills they thought would be most critical by 2030. Skills that were defined as brain skills were seriously overrepresented. And so you can see the brain skills are here in blue. So you can see some obvious ones like AI and data science, cybersecurity are at the top of the list. But the majority of these skills still very much required a well-functioning human brain. So one place that they suggest that these brain skills can be developed is in the workplace. And I wanted to read you a section that, in my opinion, contains the most important sentence in this entire report. So it says, AI-enabled changes should be paired with deliberate investment in brain skills and integrated into emerging workflows. Another sentence, also important. Without this, organizations risk losing their competitive edge and driving preventable costs through declining employee well-being. Now, why do I think that that's important? Well, they go on to talk about something called a hybrid intelligence environment, which is how AI and human work together. And an example that they give is to use AI for things like scheduling and planning and automating some of those administrative tasks that nobody really wants to handle, and then leaving the creativity and the relationships, the rapport building to the human. Now, the reason why I think that this is so important is because I think that there's a danger here. And they don't even talk about this danger, but I think the danger is we need to pair AI with humans and get a good outcome, but that if we pair them in the incorrect way, we can get a worse outcome than if we had never paired them at all. Now, this isn't something that a lot of people talk about. Most of the conversations out there are about, should we use AI tomorrow or next year? But everybody agrees that we should be using AI, at least in the workspace. But I would say we need to be really careful about how we use AI. And I like that sentence because it talked about deliberately integrating them and promoting brain skills. Because if we use AI in a way that doesn't do this, we risk atrophying, shrinking our brains in ways that we don't actually want to do. There's an MIT study that I'll link in the description and I'll talk about in another video that shows that if we are over-reliant on tools like ChatGPT, we can actually shrink parts of our brains. And so which tasks we decide to offload to AI have a major impact, not just on our work, but on who we are and what our capabilities are in the future. Here is another sentence that I thought was a little sneak peek into the future. Leaders can benefit from managing their mental and emotional energy as rigorously as athletes manage their mental and physical performance. Now, what's the tool that athletes use to measure their mental and physical performance? Wearables. They don't say it explicitly, but I think that this is talking about a Whoop for the mind. There's a lot of other interesting things in this report, but the last thing that I wanted to talk about here was measuring brain capital. And they start off by saying that measurement should lead the way, and I completely agree. There's no widely adopted framework, there's no benchmarks, it's kind of guesswork. Now, they were just alluding to maybe a dashboard for the human mind, but they explicitly talk about a cool dashboard here called the Global Brain Capital Dashboard. And so I went and looked it up. So using this interactive map, you can check out how countries rank on things like brain capital, brain health, brain skills, the things that are in this report. And then you can select a dimension beneath that, and you can see how countries stack up. I'll put a link to that into the description as well. Some other topics that they talk about here are investment. How do you invest in mental health and mental performance? And then lastly, how do you mobilize for brain capital? There's a lot of interesting stuff in here. One part that I was a bit disappointed about was that they were meant to talk about AI, and I thought they'd talk about it a lot more. I mean, it's in the title, but I was a bit disappointed that they didn't talk about it more. Overall, it was glad to see that people are talking about brain capital. I like the idea. I got a sense that they understand that AI is coming and that's going to have an impact on brain capital. I didn't really sense that they made that connection complete. Hopefully this was interesting to you. Would love to hear your thoughts in the comments.